Good morning, everyone. Thank you so much for joining us this morning for today's webinar. My name is Shonda Harris. I'm a business opportunity specialist with the Columbus Small Business Administration, which is going to be Ohio SBA Small Business Administration. And we are so glad that you joined us this morning for today's webinar. I am joined by my esteemed colleagues, Jill Nagy-Reynolds from the SBA and Sharon Hopkins from the Ohio Apex Accelerator at Ohio University. And we are grateful to be able to bring today's webinar to you. I see so many different names that I have not seen before. So we are grateful if this is your first time joining us. We've done a webinar like this several times in the past, maybe a few months ago when we did our signature Ohio Business Matchmaker. But today's webinar is a part of a series, government contracting series that we do each year. We actually partner with the Ohio Apex Accelerator at Ohio University to bring trainings like this to small businesses to help educate them about how to do business with the government. Today's session is focused mainly on the federal government, but we also highlight how to do business with state government, local government, but we like to bring tools, tips, and information to you as a small business to help you on your government contracting journey. Today's webinar is going to focus on the SBA and the DoW, Department of War, or Department of Defense Mentor-Protege programs. So we're going to highlight both of those programs, give you a quick overview about how those programs are set up and how you may be able to utilize those as tools if you're looking to grow as a small business, if you're looking to kind of expand your core competencies so that you can go after more contracts, larger contract vehicles in the federal government arena. With that said, a couple of housekeeping items. Today's session, I see in the chat, William mentioned is today's session. Today's session is going to be recorded. It is being recorded. That link for the recording will be posted on the Ohio Apex Accelerator at Ohio University's website. And we will put that in the chat so that you can have access to it. So again, today's session will be recorded. Also, if you do have questions, if you could go ahead and put them in the chat and we'll try to answer those kind of in real time as we go along. So today's session is actually a two-part where it's going to be the overview about both the SBA and DoW Mentor Protege programs, then the highlight of it to kind of cap it all off. We're going to have a panel discussion where we're going to have two mentors and their proteges that's going to answer some questions and kind of give some of their tips, their best practices, some of their experiences that they've encountered in their mentor-protege relationship. I believe that that is it. At the end, we'll mention the next training that we'll do next week, and then we'll kind of go from there. So without further ado, I am going to introduce my colleague that I've had the privilege of working with here at the SBA for the last 10 years and several years before that, Ms. Jill Nagy-Reynolds, who's a BOS here in the Columbus District Office. I have a chance to work with her and our small businesses that we work with here at the SBA. So again, I'm going to go ahead and turn it over to Jill. She's going to do the presentation, and then after the presentation, we'll get into the panel discussion. If you do have questions, if you, again, can type them in the chat, I'll go ahead and pose those to Jill, or if it's something that I can answer, I'll go ahead and answer that. And then we will ask, just for the sake of, so there's not any confusion, if you can put your cameras, if you can turn your cameras off and then make sure that you're on mute so that there's no interruptions for today's program. All right, with that, Jill Nagy-Reynolds, are you ready to take it away?
I am ready. I have
Oh, that's what I love to hear.
one small comment for you. If you can just check your cell phone. I provided an update to you.
Okay.
All
Yes,
right.
I can.
All right, everybody. Well, I
Yes.
hope you're excited to talk about or learn about the SBA Mentor Protege program and the Department of War Mentor Protege program. Thank you so much, Shonda. I appreciate it. I always love working with you. I also really enjoy, as always, working with the Ohio Apex Accelerator at Ohio University and with Sharon Hopkins. And then I'm so excited for our panelists. Shonda's going to introduce them, and I always feel that we, as a community, can learn so much more from, especially in the business community, the businesses with the boots on the ground. They can. I love it when they impart their wisdom to us. So we have a great group on the panel. We are going to start with the more mundane things of eligibility requirements for the programs, and then as well as how to apply and before we get into the panel. But I am actually going to start us off today very briefly on the Department of War or the Mentor Protege program with the Department of War, Department of Defense. So just to kind of introduce the idea of mentor protege programs at the federal government, just understand that there are multiple programs. The Department of War, and I went ahead and put the link to this webpage inside of the chat so that if you wanted to get additional information about it, this website is a great way to get started on it. It is different in multiple ways to the SBA Mentor Protege program, which I'm going to spend the majority of my time speaking on. I would say the biggest difference that I know of is that the Department of War Mentor Protege is for like Department of War programs only. So that would be, within the Air Force, Marines, uh, Navy, Army. It would be restricted to within the Department of War department. So the SBA Mentor Protege program is across the federal government. The program eligibility requirements that we'll go over, and then the resulting Mentor Protege agreement. That is used federal agency wide. So I'm not going to go into a lot more detail about the Department of War Mentor Protege program because I'm not an expert in it. I know enough to be dangerous, but not enough to provide a huge amount of guidance on it. If you have questions about it, though, please drop them in the chat and we'll do the best that we can to answer them. So I'm going to stop share and then I'm going to reshare so that you can see the presentation for today.
And Jill, I just reposted the link for the Department of War's Mentor Protege program in the chat.
Okay. Very good. And as always, with any of our programs or anything that we're talking about today, or any of the prior presentations that we've given, if you have questions after the presentation, you can always reach out to your Apex Accelerator, or you can reach out to me or to Shonda at the SBA Ohio District Office. So, and actually, I need to update the slide. We are now, we are now the Ohio District Office. We recently combined the Columbus and the Cleveland office to make one Ohio district office. Shonda and I can meet with small businesses anywhere like from Ashland County on south to Hamilton County. So the majority of the counties in Ohio. Then we have a colleague in Cleveland that also works as a business opportunity specialist. So we're well covered in Ohio with any questions you might have about SBA socioeconomic programs, about the Mentor Protege program, joint ventures. We run the gambit and we try, if we don't have the answer for you, we try and get you to the person that would. Today, we're talking about the SBA Mentor Protege program. And I put together a small agenda for everyone. So all of you should be on this call today or this training today because you have an interest in doing business with the federal government. The SBA Mentor Protege program is a tool that you can utilize to help build capacity for your business and to become more competitive on federal contracts. But before all of that, we do have some information to give you before you get on your federal contracting journey. So we just have a couple of slides about that, and then we'll do the deeper dive into the SBA Mentor Protege program. So we're going to talk about the benefits, the mentor qualifications, the protege qualifications, the application process, and then what to do after you're approved. Now, before I went on full screen, I saw that there was a chat question as to whether or not you need to be 8A certified to participate in this program, and you do not. You do not need to have an 8A certification, HubZone. You can just be a small business to participate as a protege, and you can be an other than small business to participate as a mentor. And we're going to go into exhaustive detail about this on the next few slides. So when we go back to like considerations for doing business with the federal government, one of the questions that I get often, just as people call in and they're curious about getting started, uh, a question I get often is does SBA provide a certification for small business? No, we do not. And your small business status is actually determined by your registration in sam.gov. And hopefully, my mentioning sam.gov is not the first time you've ever heard of sam.gov. That is the official registration portal that all businesses need to register in order to do business with the federal government. And part of that registration is determining what your primary industry code is. So the federal government just translates everything you do into a code. And part of your journey in federal government contracting is becoming familiar with how the federal government, the language of the federal government when it comes to procurement. So when you're getting started in federal government contracting for the first time, I do recommend that you have someone on your team with Apex Accelerators. They are your taxpayer backed resource for getting started in all of this, but they can help you look through NAICS codes, and that's how we pronounce it is NAICS, but it stands for North American Industry Classification System. So when you're first getting started, whatever business you're in, whatever your business is currently in, like where the majority of your income is coming from, that should be your primary NAICS code. And you can have multiple NAICS codes in your SAM registration, but you should have one primary code. And that primary code is how you determine at first whether you're a small business or not. So each NAICS code has its own size standard that's determined by the SBA. And SBA has that authority from Congress. So nothing that SBA does is without the authorization of Congress. So there are about 1,000 NAICS codes, but each one has a different size standard. So if you are in, for example, IT, there's 4 main IT codes that all have size standards of 34 million, which sounds really high when you're coming into this for the first time. You might be a small IT business, that as a business owner, you might not dream of making that much on an annual basis, but you never know. and how the size standards work. So, for example, if you were an IT related industry, it would be your 5-year average gross receipts. So you would take, since we're in 2026, we're July, well, now August 26, we would look at your 25, well, you should look at your 25, 24, 23, 22, and 21 taxes. And then add up your gross receipts and divide by 5. And really that is how you self-certify that you were small. So in a professional services, your size is determined by revenues. If you are manufacturing or if you are a merchant wholesaler, it's determined by your number of employees. And I know that I don't have a slide describing all of this. You really don't need it. It's just, and I would imagine most of you already know this, but just in case you didn't, um, again, there's no official certification that SBA issues for your small business status. That is a self-certification. So other contracting considerations, you have to be set up for profit in order to bid on federal contracts. You have to be for profit and you have to have decided your business type. Are you a sole proprietorship, partnership, corporation? So those are things that you can get assistance on as well. Like if you're brand new and you're like, I don't know how to set up my business, like what are the tax implications for some of these things? Well, there are small business development centers that are grant funded by SBA. So the Ohio Apex Accelerator is actually grant funded by the Department of War. And small business development centers are grant funded by the SBA, and they provide one-on-one counseling services to businesses that are just getting started or have been in business for a while. I get almost everyone that I've met with over the years could benefit from meeting with a counselor at the Small Business Development Center for multiple reasons. Like if you're looking to market your business, create a website, you need help with a business plan, you need access to capital. Small business development centers do all of that. So again, nonprofits are not considered in federal government contracting if you're set up as a nonprofit. However, you can bid on federal grants. So your business must operate primarily within the United States. And if you have a primary operations outside of the United States, then you are not qualified to bid on federal contracts. Okay, so I just talked about NAICS code, but NAICS codes, but here's a slide that's more dedicated to it. And again, as I mentioned before, it defines what industry you're in, and there's about 1,000 different NAICS codes, and you could use multiple NAICS codes inside of your SAM registration. And you can always meet with your Apex Accelerator to find out which NAICS codes would be a fit for you. Um, Keep in mind that your SAM registration is a working registration. Like it's not set in stone. Like if you have a change to your business, you can update your SAM registration at any time, and you can add NAICS codes or you can remove NAICS codes. And just also know that your SAM registration is important throughout the federal government contracting system. Once you have a successful SAM registration and you're issued a CAGE code, that CAGE code is recognized federal government wide. And it's also important to make sure that you stay on top of your SAM registration and go in and renew every year. So it's always it's always wonderful when businesses think about, okay, if I get this large federal contract, this 2, 3, $4 million contract, I will have made it, because I've met with businesses uh, that have been in business or mid-size, and I've met with very small businesses. And one thing you need to keep in mind is like a federal contract can be a 5-year contract. And if you are a smaller business, say your receipts are below, I don't know, 200,000, and you get a $5 million contract, are you ready for your success? So you have to think about, do you have the collateral? Do you have the cash flow? Do you have the ability of getting a line of credit so that you can, once you get that first contract, can you afford to pay your employees, your material, your costs until you get paid by the government? So these are things that you should plan for your success and have in mind before you start really bidding on contracts, because that'll help you in the long run. You don't want your first contract to be your only contract. When you're getting a federal contract, you plan for your second contract, your third contract, your fourth contract, so that you can just keep on having success once you're in. Because it can be, it takes a while to understand the acquisition cycles and all the things that go into federal government contracting. So once you've done that homework and you land your first contract, you don't want that to be your only one. So having capital, not just financial capital, but human capital. You want to make sure that you have the right team in place because the success of your business depends on the success of your team. So is your business procurement ready? Does the government buy what you sell? That's a big question. So it's easy for me to say, oh yeah, the federal government, largest buyer of goods and services in the world. But there might be some industries where the government isn't the best fit. I would say over the years, like insurance brokers, not necessarily a good fit for the federal government. Uh, uh, just I had a scrapbooker one time. You just have to take a look at, okay, is the federal government, and also you need to look at, okay, I might do something that's good in the commercial world that could possibly translate into federal government. And that's when your Apex accelerators can help you understand that and uh, help you find a fit. It's just always interesting for me to watch the journey of businesses and how they're able to think outside the box. All of you are entrepreneurs. So that what you think you might be specializing in federal government might just change over time. And you need to allow yourself to do that because the more you understand about federal government and the more you might realize that uh, there's a better fit for you in some other division, and that's okay. So, does the government buy what you sell? Do you have federal contracting experience? Well, you don't need to have it when you're getting started. It can help. Do you have the cash, the working capital? Are you capable of fulfilling a government contract? Like I just said, you don't want your first contract to be your only contract. And finally, do you know where to find contracting opportunities? So I talked a couple of slides about sam.gov. Well, that's also where you find opportunities now. GSA is actually the government agency that is responsible for managing the sam.gov portal. And what they've done over the last 5 years is they have combined a lot of legacy federal contracting portals into one, which is sam.gov. So sam.gov is where you manage your federal registration, but it's also the portal where you can see federal opportunities. Anything that's $25,000 or above needs to appear on sam.gov, and then how to actively bid on opportunities. And when you're new and looking at SAM for the first time, from the point of view that's just, hey, I want to see what's out there, you can feel like you're drowning in opportunities and words and things that you've never seen before. And it can be tempting to just say, okay, this is not for me. I am not going to be doing this. Well, give it a chance, work with your Apex Accelerator. They can help you break it down, help you understand what you're looking at, and then also help you divide, like create a pipeline of opportunities, because that's a key to success, is like knowing what to look for and understanding what you're actually looking at so that you can make a plan accordingly. So There are within the federal government, they like just for federal government only, like 23% of all contracts are set aside for small business. And as I mentioned before, your small business is determined, that is a self-certification within sam.gov. But then SBA also has socioeconomic programs that do require certification. And those are the woman-owned small business program. So there is a 5% set aside for woman-owned small business, and within woman-owned, there's economically disadvantaged woman-owned small businesses. The 8A program has a 5% set aside. Hub Zone has a 3% set aside. And the one that's not on here, and I don't know why, is the veteran-owned small business or service-disabled veteran-owned small business program has a 3% set aside. So all of those programs require certification. Shonda and I do regular presentations on the socioeconomic programs, the eligibility requirements for them, and you can find recorded presentations on these programs on the Ohio Apex Accelerator at Ohio University website. We are also very happy to talk to you further about any of the socioeconomic programs if you have questions, but this presentation itself is for the Mentor Protege program. So I'm not going to spend any more time on it. Uh, you also need to know what agencies buy your products and services. As we mentioned before, find your find what your business specializes in and really focus in and hone in on that. Because we have a lot of businesses that will say, oh, I'll just, what does the government need? And I'll sell that to the government. That's not a key to success in government contracting. You will get overwhelmed with the amount of things that the government buys. You need to develop your own niche and stick with it, but also be open to change if you need to do that. When I say develop, that's after conducting market research in federal government and really taking a deep dive into it. Okay, I went through that fast. Well, kind of fast, but not really. I've talked, it's 10:34. See, I have the gift of the gab. I'm always amazed at how much I can talk. So now we're going to go over the SBA Mentor Protege program. So this is a whole bunch of words that I pulled from 13 CFR. It is in part 125. That covers the SBA Mentor Protege program. But I spent a lot of time at the beginning of this presentation just talking about how it can be difficult when you're a small business, just to figure out how to navigate federal government contracting, how to find out what the government buys and how, and having the capital to be successful. So that's a great segue into the Mentor Protege program itself, because I can sit from my podium and tell, or stand at my podium and tell you all the what all the regulations are and what you need to do and look at this or consider that, but it's nothing like having a mentor, a business mentor that has experience. And SBA does not require that a mentor have experience in federal government contracting, but one of the things that I would recommend to any business that is a potential protege is that a really good mentor in federal government would be working with a mentor that has experience in federal government, because it's it takes a while to learn. But what this program is, the Mentor Protege Agreement, is a legally binding agreement that one of the things that you will have to do is, well, number one, SBA does not identify mentors for proteges or proteges for mentors. That should be an organic process, and we work with Ohio Apex Accelerators, the Ohio Department of Development. Throughout the state of Ohio, we have networking events. Our biggest one is like the Ohio Business Matchmaker, which was this past April. And that's where we're hoping that we create an environment for businesses to meet with each other and potentially talk about the Mentor Protege program. So what it is essentially, it is a business development program, and it was created to provide business development assistance to protege firms so that they could better successfully compete for federal contracts. So SBA's website was recently revamped. I looked at it this morning, and I actually couldn't find the Mentor Protege section. Shonda was able to, but it goes into, and then I found it once she helped me. But it goes into some of the details of when you're forming a mentor protege agreement between a protege and a mentor, the protege has to decide on specific assistance that they're looking for. So SBA has this as guidance. So the assistance might include guidance and internal business management systems, including accounting, marketing, manufacturing, or strategic planning. It can include financial assistance in the form of equity investments, assistance in navigating federal contract bidding, education about international trade, business development in identifying contracting and partnership opportunities, general and administrative assistance like human resource sharing or security clearance support. So these are suggestions that SBA put on for the mentor protege agreement. You can add to that if you wanted to, and you don't need to use all 6 of these bullet points. Yeah, 6. It might be just 1 or 2, but the whole point is that you as the protege or mentor come together with your protege or mentor partner and you talk about the type of assistance that you as a business would like to have. So that's kind of the first step is deciding that you wanted to form a mentor protege agreement in the first place. The second step is to look at what the mentor protege agreement needs to include by SBA standards. And it does need to have either one or all of these, but it's got to explain the type of business development that the protege is looking for. And this should be a process that the protege is actively involved in. The protege should be coming up. And I only say that because I've seen mentor protege agreements where the mentor just sent the protege, here's the assistance that you need. Here, sign off on this. Well, that's not starting the relationship off the way that it should, is it? Like it should be the protege that's coming up. So based on the prior slide, it might look like, hey, you know, the proteges really haven't made in this. What's actually the benefit to the mentor? Okay, if there's nothing you take away from this presentation, I want you to understand that the mentor protege agreement itself is an agreement. It can't be used to bid on contracts. So once the agreement is approved, then the mentor and the protege can form a joint venture agreement together. So the joint venture is a separate legal entity, and actually we're doing a presentation on joint ventures next week. I'm not going to talk a lot about joint ventures because we're going to talk about it exhaustively next week. So, a protege and mentor may joint venture as a small business for any government prime contract, subcontract, provided the protege qualifies as small. That is huge. That's huge because then, say your mentor is other than small, if they form a joint venture with you, then they can bid on any type of small business contract, such as small business set aside, 8A, hub zone, service disabled veteran owned, or woman owned small business for which the protege firm qualifies. So it's an opportunity for the mentor and the protege to work together to bid on contracts that the mentor wouldn't otherwise qualify for, and perhaps the protege wouldn't qualify for either because they don't have the capacity to do it by themselves. So just keep in mind, however, that the mentor protege agreement has to be approved by SBA before the two firms can submit an offer as a joint venture on a particular prime contract. That does not mean, however, if you are very confident that you'll get the mentor protege agreement approved by SBA, that you can't at the same time be forming a joint venture agreement, because it can take some time to form a joint venture agreement because it's a separate legal entity. You have to file it with the state of Ohio. It's got to have its own SAM registration. It's got to have its own bank account. So there's a lot of work that needs to go into forming that joint venture agreement. And if you're confident the mentor protege agreement is going to be approved by the SBA, a lot of firms will just go ahead and start forming their joint venture agreement at the same time. So again, and I foot stomped on this slide, an SBA approved mentor protege agreement is not a joint venture agreement. You would not believe how many times I've had that. No, I do, but it's not intuitive to like once you're in this world, it becomes intuitive, but it's not intuitive at first. So again, just having a mentor protege agreement, you can't use an agreement to bid on a federal contract. You need to have a business, and a joint venture is a business. So you can use the joint venture to bid on contracts. Okay. So what are the rules? Oh, rules of rules of rules. So I always love to let everyone know where the rules, where what I'm saying comes from. Okay. So 13 CFR 125.9, that is the Mentor Protege program. It's SBA's Mentor Protege program. And just for fun, if any of you are bored, you can always, in the last 10 years when ECFR came out, I was so excited by that because it used to be that the CFR would come out with books at the beginning of the year, and we would use that as reference throughout that, whatever that fiscal year was. But now with ECFR, and it's ecfr.gov. That's the other thing. When you're in government contracting, make sure when you're in federal government, the sites that you should be going to, the majority of them will end in .gov, and ecfr.gov is where SBA's socioeconomic programs, the rules for them are. So, for a mentor is can be any concern that demonstrates a commitment and ability to assist small business, and can act as a mentor. So they're encouraged to provide assistance relating to the performance of contracts set aside or reserved for small business so that protege firms can more fully develop their capabilities. And in order to qualify, again, we have to be capable of carrying out your responsibilities to assist the protege firm under the mentor protege agreements. You can't appear on the federal list of debarred or suspended contractors. And please, the intent should be to impart value to a protege firm due to lessons learned and practical experience. So you should be in more of a mentor role. When a mentor protege, when they decide to come together, it should be with a thought of really imparting wisdom on an up and coming small business, so that they can have success. It should be a mutual relationship. So there can be more than one. A protege can have more than one mentor at a time, but they cannot be in the same industry. They should not have the same NAICS code, and they should be competing, hopefully, in different geographical locations. So a mentor that has more than one protege can't submit competing offers in response to a solicitation, and a mentor cannot have more than 3 proteges at one time. The first two mentor-protege relationships approved by SBA, and we go into Puerto Rico here, which we don't really need to go into for this one. Okay, to qualify as a protege, so the firm is self-certified that it's small. We talked about that. So you can, as a protege, apply under your secondary NAICS code. It gets a little bit complicated there because you have to demonstrate that you have had work under that secondary NAICS code and that it's not like something that's brand new to you. And how you do that is provide evidence of contracting activity under that secondary NAICS code. It doesn't have to be federal. But it doesn't have to be, but SBA will review that. So SBA will not approve a mentor-protege relationship in a secondary NAICS code where the small business concern has no prior experience. So you have to have some. And like I said, it doesn't have to be federal. So then you would provide like evidence. Say I'm just going to use that IT example again. So as long as the that 541, 511, you can kind of translate into that commercial work. You can do that. SBA will work with you on that. So a protege firm may generally only have one mentor at a time. But SBA may approve a second mentor for a particular protege firm where the second relationship will not compete or conflict with the first mentor protege. Okay, so the second relationship pertains to an unrelated NAICS code, and the protege firm is seeking to acquire specific expertise that the first mentor does not possess. Um, I will say you need to be careful with that because you can only have two SBA mentor protege agreements for life. And SBA updated the rules so that if the relationship isn't working within the first 18 months, that you can request to have the relationship terminated. And I'm not going to spend, I know that I'm trying to talk fast because I have 12 minutes left, but that 18 months is key, and I have a slide talking about that. So SBA may authorize a small business to be both a protege and mentor at the same time, and I've seen that happen before, where the small business can demonstrate the second relationship will not compete or otherwise conflict with the first mentor protege. So, what is a mentor protege agreement? It's a written agreement. That's what it is. So SBA has templates that we can send to you, or if you go to the certify.gov website, I think the template is also there that you can look at. So the mentor and protege enter into a written agreement setting forth an assessment of the protege's needs. And as I mentioned before, we talked about those 6 bullet points of need. So management or technical assistance, loans, equity investments, export assistance, etc. And it must, again, be a written agreement, and you actually submit your application through certify.gov is the website. And once you have put together your mentor protege agreement and uploaded it into Certify for review, it will be reviewed by the Associate Administrator for Business Development at the SBA. And SBA will not approve it if they determine that the assistance is not sufficient to promote real development gains to the protege. The agreement must also provide that either the mentor or the protege may terminate the agreement within 30 days advance notice to the other party. So I've seen that happen before. You have to, if you're the protege and you're intending to terminate your relationship with your mentor, you have to give the mentor 30 days advance notice before you tell the SBA. So the SBA is going to say, the first thing is, hey, did you let your mentor know that you're terminating this agreement? And if you haven't let them know, then you have to go back and let them know and then wait 30 days and then submit it to the SBA. So the term of a mentor protege agreement may not exceed 6 years. That's really a long time, isn't it? If an initial mentor protege agreement is for less than 6 years, it's automatically extended by mutual agreement prior to the expiration date. So you have to be keeping in mind that it will automatically renew unless you let the SBA know. So as I mentioned before, a protege may have a total of 2 mentor protege agreements with different mentors. And each mentor protege agreement may last for no more than 6 years. And here's the bullet point I was talking about. If a mentor protege agreement is terminated within 18 months from the date SBA approved the agreement, that mentor protege relationship will not count as the one of the 2 mentor protege relationships for life. Okay. So you have to pay attention to that 18 months. Hopefully that will not happen to you. It's going to be a great relationship. Everyone's going to work really well together and be responsive and communicate and do great things. But just in case that doesn't work out, you do have that 18 months. So SBA must approve all changes to a mentor protege agreement in advance, and any changes made to the agreement must be provided in writing. So you need to keep in contact with SBA over that 6 years. If the parties to the mentor protege relationship change without prior approval, then SBA shall terminate the mentor protege relationship. So again, communication is key. As I mentioned before, you cannot obtain a federal contract with an SBA mentor protege agreement by itself. You have to form the separate joint venture agreement. We do not match mentor firms with protege firms. We do, however, try to create networking events, training events, platforms for you to meet with each other organically and have conversations where afterwards you're like, oh my gosh, I met the best business ever and I want to form a mentor protege agreement with them. So keep in mind that before you apply for the mentor protege program, both businesses have to be registered in SAM. You as the protege have to decide whether you're applying for the mentor protege program using your primary or secondary NAICS code. And there is a 1 hour tutorial, of course, because you're going to learn everything you need to know for the Mentor Protege program in 1 hour. But anyway, that's what we have. So you do need to complete that and upload it. So the typical application processing time frame is 15 day screening. So what that means is when you're assigned a mentor protege analyst, they're going to review your application. They're going to say, hey, please provide me with this additional information, or hey, you need to change this or change that. So that's that 15 days. And so once the complete application is received, then there's 90 days of processing. I will tell you one of the biggest things I've seen for rejections of mentor protege agreements is when you're not specific enough about when you're going to meet with each other. So within the template, it'll say, I am going to meet with my protege, and then you need to say, or my mentor, I'm going to meet with them weekly, bi-weekly, monthly, quarterly. You need to explain it. But if you're only meeting with your protege or your mentor quarterly, then are you really working to get contracts together? I mean, this is a relationship. It's almost like a marriage. So you should be really meeting with each other regularly and talking about what type of opportunities to go after. So how to apply, and this is it's certify.sba.gov. Certify was used until last year for other socioeconomic programs. It is not anymore. It is only for the Mentor Protege program. And once you're on the Certify website, there is a how-to guide that you can download. There is a list of the documents that you need to provide, and just frequently asked questions. I found that on that site today too, as well. So considerations when you're getting started. Has your business done business with the federal government in the past? Well, you don't have to. It helps. Have you done subcontracting? That can be a great foot in the door. Is your business financially prepared for large dollar value contracts? Can your business obtain a federal facility clearance? That's a big one for Department of War contracts. Almost all businesses need to have a facility or secret clearance or FCL to participate. Has your business met with Apex Accelerator? And have you identified teaming partners? So you're going to have to do that before you apply for the Mentor Protege program. And I got through it. 10:55. All right. Very
Okay.
good. And it looks like I've seen, I haven't been able to see the questions, but I think you've been writing a lot, Shonda.
I
So,
have, and I think I have answered all the questions. Just one thing I do want to point out that Edmund mentioned that there's a new goal for SDVOSV. It is 5%,
okay. Thank
based on
you.
the NDAA. So I did thank him for that. Good catch. I know that they've kind of changed a couple times here and there, and sometimes when you're around this so much, you're in it, doing it, sometimes it's hard to remember. So yes, the goal for SDVOSV set aside contracts is 5%, not 3%. And then I was answering this last one, and then we can transition. Tom asked if an MPA agreement is executed under one NAICS, could the MP joint venture pursue work in a secondary NAICS? And could the mentor provide MP assistance related to a secondary NAICS? Would that affect affiliation at all? Uh, the MP agreement, yes, they can pursue work under an established joint venture under a secondary NAICS. Essentially, the agreement that's set up between both the mentor and the protege. The joint venture agreement will spell out what project that joint venture is pursuing, and the NAICS code is a part of that. So it's actually rolled into the agreement. And if it's a different NAICS code other than what the mentor protege relationship is set up, yes, they can pursue a different project that has a different NAICS code. So that's a little complicated with that, but yes, they can. Could the mentor provide mentor protege assistance to a secondary NAICS? Yes, essentially, Jill had outlined there are 6 key areas that the mentor can provide the protege assistance with. And I can see if Jill can put that. I was getting ready to write it in the chat, but it's on our website, those 6 different areas, and there can be more than one that the mentor provides. But essentially, the agreement is what is going to be important because the agreement spelled out, okay, this is what the mentor is going to provide to the protege. If it's business development assistance, if it's assistance with contracting, whatever it is, it's going to be spelled out in the agreement, and it can be more than one thing. As far as affiliation, affiliation just has to deal with if that mentor is other than small, which I like to say large. If the firm is large, then that protege does have to have uh, the mentor protege agreement set up before they enter into a joint venture, because that mentor protege relationship is what protects that protege from affiliation. So the mentor protege agreement is what provides that protection from affiliation for the protege. Hopefully that helps. Those are kind of more specific questions. I think that's it, Jill, for IT Visual. I
Okay.
think
And
I think you can answer these, Jill, in the chat. Not looking at those. Would it be acceptable for development? Um, I think
I
you can.
Yes, I will look at that, and I think it'd be helpful just to for them to see what the Mentor Protege template looks like.
Yeah, I think that's a great, real quick.
So I am
Yeah.
finding that right now.
Yep, as she's pulling that up in the agreement, it actually spells out, hey, the mentor is going to provide this type of assistance to the protege. And then it also spells out when that mentor is going to provide bi-monthly, um, once a quarter, but the actual agreement spells out what type of assistance the mentor is going to provide and then the timeline of when that assistance. Oh, okay. All right. It's in the template, so great. And I think
Yep,
you can also get it on our website.
I
And
just up,
these
yep, I just uploaded the template.
And these last few questions, Jill will go ahead and answer those in the chat,
Okay.
just so that we can, and I think it's always great that we have the overview about how the programs are set up to give a good foundation of kind of the benefits of the program, what you need to do in order to apply. And then we're going to transition now to those that have actually gone through the mentor protege agreement. They have an established SBA mentor protege agreement, and they've also entered into joint ventures, and they can provide us with some tips, some tools, best practices that they've encountered on their government contracting journey. So we are joined, and you can actually turn your cameras on as I'm just going to say our panelist name, and then I'm going to have them introduce themselves. I see Alan Stevens, and I saw him at the DLA conference last month. I didn't get a chance to speak, but I saw him. It's been some time. Alan Stevens with Comtech Computer Technologies, I think that is Alan. And then we have Bruce Moyer with BISI. We have Raul Sierra with Sierra Tech. and we have Al Pal with CPM Enterprises. And I don't know about you, I think Jill said, I love the panel discussions. I feel Jill and I, a lot of times, we give kind of textbook information. Okay, here are the rules, here are the regulations, this how this works. But then the firms are able to say, hey, they take it beyond the information. They've applied it, boots on the ground. They can tell you, hey, this is what happened. We did this works, it doesn't work. They can give you the ins and outs and all the specifics. And Jill and I actually learn a lot from them. So I'm going to go ahead and turn it over. We do have some questions. I have questions, so I think I'll start off with a few of those questions. And then if you have questions, you can put them in the chat and we can go from there. But we'll start off with just having the panelists kind of introduce themselves, say the name of their company, kind of what they do, and then we'll go into our questions. So I think I started off, and I see Bruce Moyer. So if you want to quickly introduce yourself, and then we'll go to Alan, then to Raul, and then to Al. Well, let's stick with partners. We'll go with Bruce, then Raul, then Al, then Alan. So, Bruce, if you want to go ahead and kick us off and let us know who you are and what you do. Uh-oh, is Bruce frozen? Okay.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Good morning, everyone. Thanks, Shonda, for the introduction. I'm Bruce Moyer. I am the CEO and founder of BISI Solutions. We are a Beaver Creek-based company that obviously, based on the conversation we're having today, does business mainly with in the federal space. We currently have several operating locations across the country. We've been in business since 2012, and our main work that we do, the preponderance of our work is in program management. And
Okay.
I'll pass it on to you, Raul.
Well, and then also if you can identify, were you the mentor in your relationship or were you the protege?
As much as I'd like to be the mentor, I am the protege for under Sierra Tech, and Raul has been an outstanding mentor.
Awesome. Thank you, Bruce. Raul. Uh-oh, and Raul, you're on mute. I can see you, but you're still on mute.
Let me get restarted. You know,
There you go.
sometimes technology is, it's a little rough. Anyhow, my name is Raul Sierra. I'm the president and CEO of Sierra Tech. We're also based out of Beaver Creek, Ohio. Mostly an Air Force service provider, if you will, with probably about 90% of our work being Air Force. We've been around since 2007, basically doing some consulting work in the early years, and then really kicked this off in 2014, as a full-time venture for myself. We are the mentor of the relationship with BISI, and we've also been a protege in 2 other MP agreements with 2 other local companies. All right.
Okay, awesome. Thank you, Raul. And we'll go with the next mentor-protege relationship. We'll start with the mentor, Mr. Alan Stevens.
Thank you, Sandra. Thank you, Jill, panelists, and to the attendees. I'm Alan Stevens. I'm CEO of Comtech Computer Technologies. We're out of the Dayton region. We have locations across really the world, Oconus and Conus. Our primary specializations are in information technologies, record management, cyber. We do a little facility work as well as not sure if you heard that, but it seemed like the recording stopped or something there. But we're very happy, as you mentioned, about being a marriage. It has allowed us to formed partnerships that have allowed us to get work at Air Force, Defense Logistic Agency, EPA, DHA, and other federal and some civil agencies that have brought not just capability, but our ability to provide a great service for Department of War and other civilian agencies. And we can expand more as needed.
Awesome. Thank you, Alan. I think both Alan and Raul, I didn't realize you've been both a mentor and a protege. So when we have the questions, if you want to speak from either perspective, please do chime in. I think that's great.
Will do. Will do.
All right, awesome. Al Powell. There he is.
Hello, panelists. Glad to be here. My name is Albert Powell. I'm located in West Dayton. CPM Enterprise is our company name, and we're part of the joint venture with Alan Stevens, the Mentor program with Alan Stevens. It's been a fantastic marriage, and that's what it basically is. The guidance that we gotten from our mentors been tremendous. We also do, other than some things that Alan mentioned, we also do abatement work, which is a rare field for a mentor protege program. We do a lot of lead, asbestos, and mold remediation, and we are also in the IT field. So that's who we are. Thank you.
Awesome. Thank you so much. I think we're going to go ahead and kick it off with the question, what were you looking for in a mentor? And I believe since even though we have two mentor-protege relationships, both Alan Stevens and Raul Sierra have both served. They're serving as mentors to their proteges, but they have also been proteges. So they can speak from that perspective. But I think that's a great way to kind of kick the panel off. And it doesn't matter who wants to answer it, but what were you looking for in a mentor from the perspective of you being a protege? What were you looking for? What were the characteristics you were looking for? Was there a specific contract or an agency that you were looking to target? But what was it that you were looking for in a mentor that kind of got this whole process started and getting your mentor-protege relationship set up?
Would you like to
Go
start?
first.
Okay, go ahead.
Okay.
Sorry. In our case, we're already in the 8A program, and I've been around the 8A program for 20 years before.
Wow.
I got my company certified, so I was quite familiar with it. I wanted to find a company, a local company, number one, somebody that I could, meet with frequently, that had success in the program, and that wasn't necessarily a company that I worked for in the past. For me, that was important because I didn't want any, affiliation questions, anything like that. So, the first one that I found was Peerless Technologies, which at the time I had great success here in this area as an 8A company and as a small business. The second time around, since I already had enough experience and qualifications, I went with CDO Technologies, a company that I worked for, like 15 years before. So there was a relationship already, but there was no affiliation or anything like that. So that was important to me, trying to protect the company, first. So.
Awesome. Thank you, Raul.
I can jump on next. So I was kind of the opposite from Raul. I came from larger companies when I started BISI, and I was actually looking for someone that I had worked with, not necessarily for, but certainly worked with in the past. It's very important to me to have marriage, as young man called it a little earlier, to be in a marriage with someone I could trust, that I knew of, that I didn't have to watch my back every 5 seconds, and that we could meet and talk frankly about the issues that we were going to face in not just going after business, but after we won, because we knew we were going to win things we went after. We were fairly confident, and we have, that after when issues came up, we were able to have open and frank discussions about those issues and settle those in an amicable way for both entities.
Awesome. Thank you, Bruce. Alan?
Yes, just as some of the rest of the attendees, eager business entrepreneurs that want to get started in business, Comtech didn't stumble out the blocks, but we were slow to kind of get engaged. And what we were looking for to expand our capabilities, our offerings, and scale our business model up. So we wanted to find a company with same shared values, same intent, complementary capabilities, commitment, good communication, ability to potentially build a long-term strategic alignment. And what we did was my first entry into it, I formed a relationship with Circle, which is they were kind of a big company looking for a small, eager company, and we formed a great relationship and won several opportunities. And my second time as a protege was with CDO Technology, same as Raul. Shout out to Mr. Al Wolford, where he kind of took Comtech under the wings and helped us with core key values around operations, administrative, payroll setup, the ability, which is real critical in responding to Department of War requirements, is our ability to write proposals and the like, which are very essential. And that helped not just expand, but that helped to build internal capabilities for the company, which allowed both the mentor, the CDO and Circle to grow and keep their work, but also for Comtech to expand not just number of resources, but revenue and the ability to do business in the right way to respond appropriately.
Awesome. Thank you, Alan. Al?
Well, what we were looking for was somebody that had experience and been down the road that could give you the guidance and the things that you need to get started. We were very laxed in not knowing a lot about contracting and how to get jobs. And we were looking for a mentor that was strong in that area and that had guidance that could help us along the way. You can't get in this program and just think, oh, I got a mentor and all the work is done. You got to be able to work with each other, get through the differences, iron things out. And when you hear no from a contract, just keep your head down and keep on going and learn from your mistakes. So our mentor has been really good about keeping us focused on what we need to do.
All right, awesome. And it sounds like for each of you, you mentioned either you said it directly or you kind of implied it about relationships and going back to people that you either worked with or knew. How important is it to have an established relationship if you're looking for a mentor, if you're looking for a protege? Is that really important? If a company is looking to enter into a mentor-protege relationship, how important is it to have those relationships and have trust that's already established? Should they just enter it into somebody they just recently met? Or how important would you say those relationships are in getting that mentor-protege set up?
I would say right away, I was fortunate because Alan Stevens and I played marbles together. We went to junior high together and played against each other in high school. And so it was a friend that I knew all my life.
Wow.
And through one of these programs, I happened to see him and he saw me and we got to talking right away. But to know somebody would be great. It's not always going to work out that way, but it's like dating. You need to date first before you realize, because it still took us maybe 4 to 6 months before we came to an agreement. But what made it good was that I knew of him, knew of his character, and knew of his leadership.
And
Awesome.
I might
And
add,
if you know
go ahead,
of
Ron.
someone in business, it's even better, I think. If you I mean, you learn quick in this business, right? How are companies, how do they treat their teammates? What reputation do they have? Those kinds of things. It's very important. I mean, you can't just go on and uh, get in business with a company and then be surprised down the road, especially if you win a contract or two.
Yeah.
There are horror stories out there that you know
They do exist, right?
yeah.
There,
Oh, absolutely. I mean, you have to, number one, once you get into a joint venture, it's different than a mentor, that a prime sub relationship. So there's an extra level or layer of trust that has to exist. Or that's why each one of those agreements will have a arbitration and a lot of legal language on how to deal with conflict. All those sections are in there for a reason. That I believe they're required by the SBA.
They are.
So
They are.
I mean they're there for a reason. So yeah, I mean you need to know the person or the company, but also how they do business. That's very important.
How they do business.
Yeah.
I might add that as we mentioned marriage and interconnecting things together, I look at it kind of like this. It looks good, feels good, and the potential says that we need to do this because timing is everything, and why not now? However, in every relationship, and more importantly here in the business relationship, after the honeymoon is over, then you find out that styles, personalities, work ethics, when people start, when people finish a particular job, do they see it through? And like that sometimes can clash. So I think that if you can define expectations, do it in a measurable, put schedules together, and as Jill mentioned, you want to meet frequently to discuss any potential issues and try to mitigate them, with the whole idea that success can be had. However, the pragmatic approach on blending companies, personalities, styles, approaches are essential to make sure that you got it in writing. And you even in writing, you have to make sure that you have some levity that will give you ability to go pursue and capture business and the like.
All right, awesome. Bruce, I don't.
So I'll just keep it short and condense it down to answer your question. And the answer is no, I would not do a joint venture with someone that I just met who brought an opportunity to me based on everything everyone has just said. I just wouldn't do it.
No, I think that's great. Again, I think it's always wonderful to hear from companies that have been there and have done that. You can hear of, as Jill just eloquently presented, on what are the qualifications and what does it take to get the relationship set up. But just hearing from somebody that's been there and saying they wouldn't do it with someone they don't know. And with that, what would you describe or what would you recommend are some best practices in forming a mentor protege agreement? What were important considerations for you as the protege? I'm going to speak to the proteges first. So, what were important considerations for you as the protege in looking to set up your mentor protege relationship with your mentor? And then I'll ask the mentors next.
Well, for me, it was basically the old analogy was the old sheep knows the road, the little lamb must follow. I was looking for somebody with experience, somebody who's been through the pitfalls. And when I found somebody that was not only willing to be the mentor, but had been a protege, I know they've been down the road and knew what to look for and inform me. I want to make sure someone was financially stable. Wasn't no use for both of us being broke. And I want to make sure that someone could understand how to do technical writing. It's how you word things and get things done. The wrong word or the wrong phrase could cost you a contract. So I was looking for the experience, basically. I agree just to meet somebody and say, let's form something. Like I said, Mr. Stevens and I was lifetime friends, but it still took a half a year for us to vet each other and then to agree that, hey, the timing's right. Let's do this.
Okay, wonderful. Thank you. Bruce.
What I would say is that what I look for, and this is probably been work for larger companies, help grow smaller companies into larger companies before I started my own business. So I had 20 years, obviously, of military experience and a substantial amount of private sector experience before I started my business. The most important thing to me was process, right? That the individual that I'm was going to deal with, that they had process, almost the way that Raul described the agreements that you get into. And there's a way to disassemble issues and break those down so that you, number one, you recognize it's a risk and an issue, right? And then you have a process for addressing those. And so that was key to me, that the organization had process. That way they can recognize issues and risks, and then we could address those process. And also, as Al said, we both can't be broke, so they have to be financially stable. That's important.
That does help. It does help, huh? Thank you. Now for the mentors, what were important considerations for you looking for a mentor and entering in your mentor-protege relationship?
Raul, you want to go or want me to go?
Go ahead, Alan.
Okay. Understanding, I think for a mentor protege, let's face it, it has to be mutual beneficial to both parties. What do you have? What bargaining or what value do you bring to the table? For the protege, typically they are a woman-owned or a service-disabled or some economic disadvantaged women and a woman-owned business, which are right now, along with the service-disabled, set aside. So that's where a large portion of the federal dollars are being spent, unless you're other than small business. So on that side, do you have one of those set asides, and are you still small? From the mentor, from my side, we brought the capabilities, we brought the past performance, we brought the financial, and we brought the apparatus, meaning the proposal shop, the financial capabilities, the ability to do the administrative security taskings, and the like to the table, which allowed for a blended, mutual, beneficial relationship that had a value add for both sides. So for Mr. Powell, who was also a hub zone, that helped. Being at the time in 8A, that was beneficial. For our other protege, they have other categorizations on service disabled and hub zone. So what Comtech brings to it is a company that has probably a lot of capabilities. Some folks say quite a bit. That we were able to reach back, grab the protege, and have them get the security clearances, have them provide the revenue, help them ability to write proposals better, to build briefs out and the like, which I think was mutually beneficial from both sides.
Awesome. I want to insert something really quick that Alan brought up as far as being mutually beneficial. And just, I don't know if everyone knows, but Alan mentioned about the certifications. The small business program designations. So a lot of times as mentors, they may have those certifications, 8A, HubZone, SDVOSV, woman owned. And so if you're entering into a joint venture with a small firm that has one of those designations, that joint venture is going to take on that certification of the small business or that protege. So that may be an incentive for the mentor, again, so that joint venture will take on the certification that that managing member of the joint venture has. So that protege, if they're 8A, if they're woman owned, SDVOSV, or HubZone, then that joint venture is going to take on that certification. If that small business has more than one certification, that joint venture is going to have whatever certifications that that protege has. And Antoinette, yes, the recording will be available, so you can, if you have to head out, you can always go back to listen to it. All right, with that, Raul, I think this is great information.
Shanda, to go along with what you said, the joint venture takes the characteristics of the protege, but it also takes not only the experience of the mentor, but the security clearance, the ISOs, the CMMI, all the
Excellent.
other things, that allow the joint venture to be even more competitive. That
Right.
teaches, hopefully, the protege how to get those certifications so they can move on, once they get out of the, once the joint venture and the mentor protege agreement expire. So, I think those are key things to consider. Now, a while back we did one of this, and I forget who said it, but do you want the relationship to be transactional or transformational, right? I think you want a blend, right? I mean, transactional, yeah. CRTech might have had some contracts that were expiring that we weren't eligible for anymore, so we needed to find a protege to form a joint venture and be able to continue to provide the service. So and then transformational, going back to certifications, processes, and the assistance that we can provide to the protege, that hopefully get into the next level once we get out of the relationship. Okay.
Awesome. That is a great point, talking about mutually beneficial, even though the protege may provide the designation for a certification, but the mentor may have that past performance. They may have an industry certification, CMMC or ISO. And so that joint venture can take on that past performance or those industry certifications. So great point. Great point. The next question I believe all of you mentioned kind of the importance of, you kind of knew your partner, your mentor, or your protege, but did each of you partner or work with your mentor or protege on other projects in the past? So before you formed your mentor protege agreement, did you do a prime sub relationship? Was there something that you maybe partnered with them on a previous contract before entering into a mentor protege agreement? Sometimes companies may want to test the water to say, hey, I'm thinking about entering in mentor protege relationship with this company, but I want to test the water. So there's this small project. Let's see if we can work on this. So did you guys enter into a prime sub relationship or do anything prior to entering into your mentor protege agreement?
See, in our case, we didn't, because we had already had experience when I was working for other companies.
Okay.
I worked with Bruce in my previous role in a different company. So we already had, kind of already had done the dance, if you will. And we kind of knew each other and how to conduct, how to develop business and how to, operate. So kind of similar to the same thing, but not exactly the same,
Okay.
Right. I just add a little bit to what Raul said. We had worked, and we were in a prime or prime sub relationship on an opportunity that we had. And one thing that impressed me about Sirotech and Raul is that he didn't consider, or I should say he did consider, or his organization certainly didn't consider a need to grab every penny that was on the floor, right? He saw that it was very important that and I succeed in some places and he succeeded in other places. And I saw that flexibility, that hydraulic that his organization was willing to go through. So everyone in the end succeeded. That, to me, that was very important. So to answer your question, I think that that's a critical factor. It's not always possible, obviously, but I think that's a critical factor if you saw how they operate in the trenches. That's important.
Great.
And for Comtech, for the two proteges we did enter into a prime sub relationship. One, to allow them drive some revenue, build some capabilities, past performance, and to build as we were building the Mentor Protege, we wanted to make sure that there was some alignment as the Mentor Protege was being approved. So by giving resources, by synthesizing our accounting and our security and our quality management systems around them, they were able to kind of learn that. So as a Mentor Protege, they mentioned 6 years. We wanted to make sure that we didn't have to do a start-stop. So we kind of concurrently brought the capabilities up as we were looking for approval from SBA for the Mentor Protege.
Good. Al, did you want to chime in?
No, he pretty much carried it.
Okay. And with that, when did you both relationships, when and kind of how did you decide it's time for us to form the joint venture? So you decided on, okay, I do want to enter into a mentor protege relationship with my partner, but then how long did it take, or when did you decide, you know what, it's time to take it to the next level? We're ready to bid on a contract. When did you decide, hey, it's time that we need to set up the JV?
In our case, it was almost right away
Oh,
because we
okay.
knew that we had, some expiring contracts, etc., that we wanted to go after. So, we wanted to be ready for that. So we set it up almost concurrently, if you will.
Wow.
To basically the same as Raul made mention too. We did it a little later, but we knew this was the best path. I guess I can say it. During the prior administration, they were a little bit more favorable toward SBA and just toward the small business arena, so to speak. So we got in as it was good during the last administration. Now we're a little bit more cautious due to the oversight that's been applied to the programs and across all of the set asides. But it was good timing and the like for us also. Thank you.
All right, thank you.
And I think I would add to that to say that was always in the game plan, but we just took one step at a time. So, but that's a conversation you should have with your mentor. Is how we're going to start, when we're going to do this, and what's our end goal. And I think that you have that game plan together, and it works out.
Yeah, what's the end goal? I like that. All right, awesome. I think Bruce, I don't think you're the last one to hear from you. Is Bruce, did we lose Bruce? I know he was having some connectivity issues. He may have fallen off, but he'll probably join soon. And then I am going to encourage, I've kind of been looking at the chat, but if you have questions, we do have kind of a list of questions for them. But if you have something specific, go ahead and put it in the chat for us, and we'll try to ask the panelists your questions. My next one, until I see Bruce come back on, can you kind of give our participants some tips, or best practices in maintaining good communication with your mentor protege partner? I'm sure there may have been some times where you could have hit, a rough patch, something may have happened, maybe there was a contract and some things happened that you didn't quite anticipate. But how important is it to have um, or to maintain a good open line of communication with your mentor protege partner? And if you give an example, also you share your feedback, and then maybe give an example of maybe something that happened in your mentor protege in your relationship with your mentor or protege.
I missed
During
the first part of your question.
Oh, I said, how important is it to maintain successful open lines of communication with your mentor protege partner? And then also if you can give maybe an example of something, but how important is it to maintain that communications?
I I I think the formal um, part of it is you gotta document an agreement. You should build by the artifacts of that document, far as setting up standard protocol meetings. We do them for us monthly, or if there's a hot item, we have hot item meetings, meaning something just came up, we need to just deal with, and we join different groups, whether operations or whether accounting or whether to solve the issue at hand. And nothing beats old fashioned pick the phone up, uh, uh, in it, which we don't do sometime in today's world.
Mhm,
It's like, hey, what's going on? We got a problem. We need to. When are you available to discuss? But it behooves you to set regular patterns of meeting cadence so that things don't get missed. That's my
mhm.
thoughts.
Yes,
Thank you, Al.
especially early on,
Mm,
it's very important. After a while, things just kind of, everything evolves. I know my first JV, MPJV with Peerless, I mean, we were pretty diligent. We're still performing in some of the contracts, but now it's almost turned into a prime sub relationship, really. Because we're uh, not as intentional, in looking for new work because the joint venture is expired, but we still have contracts that
mm,
we're
mhm.
executing. So yeah, initially, especially, it's very important to have formal meetings, as Alan said.
Great. Thank you,
So,
Raul.
I like to add to that is they're both right, the formal meetings, but the line of communication is more than just being business partners. Um,
Mhm,
when you know you're in a good relationship when you're good. You're talking about the ball games, you're
mhm,
taking the family to the same events, or you're going to the frays with each other and taking the wives out to dinner. When it's other than just business all the time, I think that's part of the business is to have the communication. Like I had deaths in my family, my partner called and said, "Don't worry about it. We got this, we got that," and vice versa. I think that support. You're gonna, you may be joint venture and protege for X amount of years, but you're gonna be friends or business partners in a way
mm.
for life.
Okay, awesome. I don't see Bruce if he was able to join back in, but trying to look at the. So with that, do either of you have maybe an experience, or do you have maybe a story you can tell where communication maybe uh, having that open lines of communication actually helped save a project? It helped um, kind of bring clarity, but just do you have an example maybe of something that you can share as it relates to you having a good line of communication or having that established relationship with your mentor or protege? I'm kind of putting you on the spot, but I'm sure with the experiences that you have with your mentor protege partner, I'm sure you have a lot of stories, but just saying, do you have one that maybe is on the top of your mind? Maybe a project where you hit bumps in the road. Maybe it was a project that you encountered, maybe some unanticipated consequences, and having that open line of communication is what helped you to successfully navigate to finish a contract? Can you think of something?
I can.
Okay, great.
We have a contract where we were performing where the contract officer said this particular employee had to be removed immediately. Now, in a transactional relationship, we would have had to send emails, uh, do some formal correspondence and the like, but it was as simple as, hey, Al, we got to stop what we're doing. We need to head out to right pat. And for the sake of the safety of the people and the surroundings around it, we're going above our ops people. We're going above all the other folks. We need to make an immediate removal and dismissal of this person. And if we did not have a one cordial, two a rapid response kind of relationship, we could have just waited too long and had to go through the protocols, the other people within the company, but the two head CEOs of the opportunity we were performing on, we had to get out there and remove that employee. Unfortunate, but our direct, cordial, seamless lines of communication served us well in that regard.
Awesome. Thank you. I believe Bruce
Also,
is.
I
Go
remember
ahead.
a situation in which no fault to anybody in our organization, but the deposits wasn't made on a new
Mm,
account for us, and it was getting close to 4:30, and a phone call, uh, probably with 10
wow.
minutes to go, was able to save the day, and we were
Wow.
able to rally some people on the team to get some things transferred over to cover stuff until Monday. But you don't want a payroll
Wow.
to ever
Wow.
bounce. And the lines of communication
Mm,
that my mentor were able to pull the strings to get the right person on the phone to get things in the right place. And that's the type of, when we call each other and we say it's urgent or it's important, they could be on a plane. We get back
wow.
with each other. That's important. You got to have a cold word or something that say, hey, this cannot wait. We need to take care of
Hmm.
that. And uh, that's important. Those lines of communication.
Awesome. Bruce, to kind of bring you back up to speed, I think you kind of fell off a little bit, but we were just kind of speaking to how important is it to maintain successful lines of communication with your mentor or your protege partner. And then I was asking them if they had any real life stories that they could tell of where maybe having that open lines of communication actually saved a contract. It maybe was able to help you navigate, to help you finish, performing on a contract. But if you wanted to speak to that, just the importance of having the open lines of communication and maybe continuing to set that up throughout your relationship, how important is it for you to have that and to maintain it with your mentor or your protege?
Sure. So with our mentor, Sierra Tech, we have weekly meetings. We have individual opportunity meetings. So there may be multiple meetings a week, and we're almost, well, not almost, we're integrated as one organization when it comes to our joint venture, our Mentor Protege, joint ventures that we have, because we have several joint ventures within our Mentor Protege agreement. You can establish those, and I understand you guys are going to get into those next week, so I won't go too deeply into that. So to even further integrate it, my chief of operations talks directly to
Mm,
without me being involved at all, right? Or Raul, for that matter, being involved. They talk directly to his director of operations or director of programs and programs that we operate in. So we operate as one entity, right?
mm.
So those lines of communication are always open, and frankly, to develop great relationships out of that, not just from a business perspective. So that's very important to us.
Okay, awesome. Awesome. Thank you. And just to let you know, the participants are saying this is great. They are loving the panel discussion. So it is always a pleasure and learning from you guys. I am going to throw this question out. It wasn't on the questions I believe that Jill sent, but do you remember winning your first contract with your Mentor Protege joint venture partner? And if so, can you, and if not, maybe your first, one of the early on, one of the contracts that you won early on, can you describe any key factors of what helped to contribute to your success in winning the award? So do you remember winning your first contract with your mentor? Bruce is smiling like, oh yeah,
Yeah.
definitely. Can
So
you, yeah.
yeah, so I'll jump in right here. And from the first one we won was actually previously a contract that Sierra Tech had previously had, and essentially we allowed them to be a mentor. I think that's the best way to put it. We allowed them to be the mentor. There was, I believe I'm a little older than Raul, so and like I said, I'm retired military now, so I'm kind of used to being in charge or taking charge in certain situations. It's my natural inclination. But I realized that there was a reason why he was a mentor in a relationship, and he was bringing competencies and professionalism and relationships that we didn't have in order to win that opportunity. So we allowed them to be the mentor, and we were successful in that, in winning that opportunity, which was a substantial opportunity. So
Great, thank you.
Shonda,
Yes.
there's been a lot of just in the chat, a lot of question about how to find a mentor.
Okay.
Or how to find a protege. I just wanted to ask the panelists what recommendations, and I know we've talked about what if you don't know someone that's already in federal contracting? What recommendations would you have for businesses that are new in how to set the stage or start the conversation of looking? I think most of our attendees today are potential proteges, but how would a good approach be if they don't know who the business is, that they're kind of going about it cold? What recommendations would you have for them?
Great question.
So I can.
I think your matchmaking events are, a key. I know you guys have one. I think it's in April here in Dayton, and I'm sure you have them throughout the state. Reaching out to the accelerator is a good idea as well. And start forming those relationships. It takes a while. We'll also have industry seminars or events, especially here in Dayton, for Wright Patterson. I think that's probably the way to go about it. Joining some organizations that'll get you involved with the contracting community until you feel confident enough to bring up the subject.
I might add, Jill, you mentioned the various NAICS codes. I think that's a starting point. What line of business are you going to be in? Are you going to be IT? Are you professional services? Are you facility? Are you environmental, et cetera, et cetera? I think based off of that, you might want to go to SBA site, find a list of small business approved 8As or women-owned or services table or hub zones, depending on your alignment of type of business and who you are. A couple of the panelists mentioned local. I think local helps, but that's not the final determining factor. I think it's definitely beneficial if you can reach out and touch that potential protege versus always got to travel or get on the phone with them. I think also with that, to Raul's point, meeting up with them or meeting them at a network event and the like would be helpful and the like. And I think breaking bread. Once you find a couple, hey, break bread with them. Have find out. Mr. Powell mentioned meet and greet and talk to them. Not just make it transactional, but make it as Rose said, transformable to a point that your at least your initial styles and personalities blend, and your capabilities and goals can be aligned.
Awesome.
Also, I'm just trying to, okay, so if I'm a protege and I'm attending this panel and I hear you today and I'm like, wow, I'd really like to partner with one of you. I want one of you to be my mentor. Would it help if they have like a project in mind or have done research about the type of business you have or your mission or what would be a good approach versus a bad approach?
To me, that's a hard question to answer, Jill, but we need to. Finding success sometimes is like a needle in a haystack. You probably won't get it on your first try with anything you do. I think that you have to do your research on USA Spends. Jill mentioned sam.gov. I think sometime attending FCA events, finding companies, doing your research to find the companies, go to where those local events are being held, and just find a way to either send an email out, which I think is informal, but sometimes you have to do it that way, or try to find a way to get on people's calendar schedules, or find out where maybe they might be attending. And socialization is not in a technology perspective, but the ability to socialize and meet and shake hands and the old-fashioned meet and greet form, I think, is the best. Did that answer?
Well, and I want to say, just for all four panelists, you all walk the walk. Like I've seen all of you at networking events, you always volunteer to be on panels and impart wisdom, and that is really part of the work there. Is being willing to put yourself out there and have those conversations. So we have Donald, who is interested in finding mentors in transportation. As Alan just mentioned, like Donald, he mentioned USA Spending, but I would also, and it's usaspending.gov, but also meeting with your Apex Accelerator. And would a contracting officer from the Air Force be a good partner? Is that contracting officer in business? If you're talking about the SBA Mentor Protege program, it would be like two businesses coming together. Does anyone have any questions? And Shonda, I'm going to stop. I'm not taking over.
No,
I'm going to turn myself off.
And I'm getting ready to, I'm glad that you brought that, because I really haven't been monitoring the chat. I could see some things coming through, and I know you were answering. We are just about out of time. And I think maybe a great way to kind of end it maybe would be two things, maybe for each of the panelists to share recommendations as far as what to do and what not to do from the perspective of being a mentor or a protege. What are some things to do? What are some things not to do? And then maybe to wrap it all up, the final question we'll just give, what do you want to end your, keys or tips that you want to close out on? But this one, what are several recommendations of what to do and what not to do as it relates? And then if you can speak, if you're speaking for mentors or if you're speaking from the perspective of a protege.
One thing that I always like to bring up for the protege is to remember that you still have to run your business. Okay.
Good advice. Yeah.
We get lost in this whole, very excited to form a joint venture, to go after business with our partner. But at the end of the day, you still have to run your own business. You have to progress and be able to go after opportunities on your own. So, remember that you have to run your own business as well.
That's
That's
important.
really, really important what he just said, because I can remember getting phone calls of, hey, where you at? I'm dressed in a monkey suit taking out asbestos. I still still got to run my business. You're just not going to get a mentor and then your problems are over. Uh, you still got to keep running your business, which is good. I also think that people need to come, business cards, resumes, and if the SBA has 6 events out a year, shame on you if you're not at 5 of them. Because that's where you're going to meet the people in the field. That's where you're going to meet somebody from Chicago and didn't know that, hey, this is in my region, and there's a contract out there I can possibly do. You got to network. You got to try to set up these meetings yourself, and your Apex. That's why it's there. You got to use the resources. There's mentors out there. You just have to do your homework, and the earlier you're in your 8As or your certifications, 1 to 2 years in, the better. If you 7 or 8 years in, uh, but the earlier you with your certifications, the better.
Awesome. Thank you, Al. Alan or Bruce?
I know we come to an end. I will go exactly run your business, commitment, go to the industry events, try to do your research. Research is at a tip of your fingertips, guys. That's so critical, and there's so many resources out there. I know you're trying to get to some other stuff here.
I would just say ditto what they would say. I would just add, make sure your head is clean shaven. Obviously, that's a successful thing to have, right?
Yeah.
You can see based on the business owners here. I don't know what Raul is doing. But other than that, as both Al and Raul said, it's very important you realize you have your own business, and this whole thing is you guys, you and Jill said in the beginning, Shonda, this whole thing is about business development. And so when the question is asked, how do I find a mentor or how do I find a protege? You've got to get out there and beat the streets, right? You've got to put your feet on the street and get out and meet folks. And that's how you do it.
Great. And I think, did we hear from everyone? And then just to kind of wrap things up, just your final thoughts, tips that you want to leave with the participants as far as anything that you want to share as it relates to the Mentor Protege program. As Bruce said, it is for business development, but what are some key things that you just want to leave as your last kind of comments? And Bruce, since you're up, if you want to go ahead and share.
Right. So have a strategic goal in mind when you've set out to do this, right? It shouldn't be, you shouldn't have a helter-skelter approach to, and this applies to just managing and running a business in general, that you should have a strategic goal in mind when you're going through this process, and that'll help you keep yourself focused.
Awesome.
I would say to get started in this, have a forecast. If things are not working out in the first 6 to 7 months, you need to look at the exit and move on. And I'm telling you what I know, not what I heard. Don't wait along with somebody that's all of a sudden want to take you in a different direction than what you agreed upon. It's not going to work. So kind of recognize that this is something that's worth staying in or not.
That's a good point, because as Jill mentioned, 18 months if you're in a mentor-protege relationship, and if for whatever reason it's not working out, the mentor or the protege can get out of it before you hit that 18-month period, and it will not count against you because you only have 2 times to be a protege. So great point, Al. Alan.
Thank you. Just, I think I close with thank you all for inviting me. I hope everyone learned from this, the attendees. If it was easy, everyone would do it. You get out of it what you put into it. The urgency of now cannot be overstated if you want to be an entrepreneur. Entrepreneuring is hard. This SBA program is a very powerful apparatus that if you can get to the right thing, but the overemphasis of a purpose, commitment, willingness to learn from your mentor or have humility to hear from your protege will be very valuable. I think also, if I could sum it up, think about it as long-term success. Most things do not happen overnight. They happen over a period of time. And I think that if you can build mostly toward not just the now, but the future and the forecast and the anticipation that I will weather the storm of the bumpy mountains and the mountains I have to climb, there will be success on the other side. That's kind of my party's thoughts.
Awesome. Thank you, Alan. And Raul will close us out.
You know, ultimately, right? Are you passionate about this?
Are you, Pat?
You know, you believe in yourself and your business. But along with that, you have to do the work, right? You gotta
do the work.
You know, set up the right processes, make the right investments where they need to be, and surround yourself with the best people you can.
Yeah.
That is key right there. A lot of us are small. We have to wear many hats. You have to have a team that can work well together, and recognize when one of the teammates don't fit. You have to move on. I mean, just like Al mentioned about recognize when the relationship is not working. Same thing with employees in a small business. You can't. Everybody has to be a high performer, in my opinion. So.
Awesome. Again, thank you to all of our panelists. This has been fantastic. And I think, as Jill said, I just want to say thank you again. We not only enjoy these panelists and think it's a great time for our small businesses to learn, but Jill and I also learn from you guys. And, we may email you at the last minute, but your willingness and flexibility to always join us, we don't take that for granted. And just as Jill said, you guys are who you say you are. And we just appreciate the opportunity to work with you. I know Jill has worked with all you guys more closely because you've been her firms. I've had a chance to kind of more interact with you on sessions like this, but again, it has been phenomenal. Thank you again, Al Powell with CPM Enterprises. Thank you, Alan Stevens with Comtech Computer Technologies. Thank you, Raul Sierra with Seartech, and thank you, Bruce Moyer from BISI. And thank you as our panelists that joined today for the entire session with the overview. Thank you, Jill, for presenting on both the SBA and DoD Mentor-Protege programs. This is always an excellent time. I always hate when they have to end, but they do.
Ms. Harris.
Yes.
I just want to say one thing as someone who I got on about 15 minutes late. But
okay.
The information that I have received from this is phenomenal. I mean, Good. It's priceless. I didn't wake up this morning thinking I was going to have this kind of meeting today. And I would have been so mad at myself if I had missed the meeting. I worked with Don over at Apex. He just nominated me for an award. And I'm just excited. This is just another piece of the puzzle. You guys rock.
You know what? Thank you for that. You guys do rock. They do rock. And we have some phenomenal firms that we work with, and we're grateful to have the ability to highlight them on panels like this. So thank you, Bernice, for chiming in and giving us your feedback. Stephanie is giving hands up. So thank you, everyone, for joining us today. I know we went a few minutes early. Yes, Jill.
Our next event for joint ventures. Yes. If you like this one, Bernice.
I'm going to be presenting next week. So it'll be on joint ventures. We'll do the same thing. We'll give an overview. I'll speak first, and then we'll have another fantastic panel. So
When next
Bernice,
week?
I don't know how we can beat this panel, but
next,
you know,
it's going to be hard.
What day is it next week?
Next Wednesday, the 12th, same time, same bat channel, 10 a.m. for the overview, 10 to 11, 10:45, and then the panel will be from 11 to 12. It may start a
This
little
is
sooner.
great.
Yep. So it'll be
I'm
on joint
excited.
ventures next
I'm
week.
real excited.
Awesome. So we want to see you
Can I
and
say this
hopefully.
one last
Absolutely. Go
thing?
ahead,
yes,
Al.
please, Al.
I like for all the proteges to realize you have value.
Yeah.
Because you don't have a mentor right now, or because you don't know what area really to go into and how to get that first. Your 8A is valued. Your woman owned is
Yeah.
valued. Your certification is valued because you know what? They need your signature. You have value. That's what I want to say. Thank you.
Awesome. On that note, you have value. Don't forget it. Don't let anybody else try to devalue you, and operate based on some of these tools and some of these principles that these panelists shared with you. And then, of course, join us next week so you can see how to take it to the next level. And when you form your joint venture, after you've formed your mentor protege relationship, some tips and suggestions on what you can do to go after contracts. So again, thank you for your time. We went over a few minutes, but I think it was definitely well worth it. And hopefully you can join us next week. And again, this was a collaboration between the SBA, myself and Jill, and our Ohio Apex Accelerator partners, Sharon Hopkins, who is the Fearless Director. So again, thank you for your time. Join us next week. If you want the copy of the recording, go to the Apex Accelerator at Ohio University's website, and you can watch it all over again. Everybody have a great day, and we will hopefully see you next week. All right. Thank you.